I've spent a while looking at this photo and a couple of other photos. What I wanted to do for our lesson this time was to talk about reflections and having them work in a landscape. You guys probably all remember the last set of lessons we did animals and we put some of them into a landscape a little bit. This particular photo, I like it, but it just is feeling a little bit, empty, that it needed just something else to make it interesting. And so I thought it would be nice to put a deer into it. I have a photograph that I took elsewhere of a deer in a meadow with a little bit of light coming in on it. And I liked the position and sort of the shape of that. But then when I reduced it down and tried putting it in here in that direction, it's going to have to be in land. This deer is walking right out of the picture. So it's just walking right out. So I decided to go back into my photos program and flip the picture horizontally. And when I did, I was able to get that tape off of there. I was able to bring it in the other direction, and let's see, where was this that it worked? Right about here. Having the deer sort of right there at the edge of the water. Of course, you could paint this without that deer in there. He's not that crucial. So once we've got that placed and the layout of the picture is pretty much okay, I'm going to ignore this swimming cord that's here too. This is a photograph that I took up at Whiskeytown Lake at Brandy Creek, where they've got a swimming area, and so they've had the cord, to delineate the edge of the swimming area. So what I really want to work on now is to go through, and I'll have you guys do this as well, to do what I would call a value thumbnail sketch. It's also known as a noton, where you break everything in here into three values: light, dark, and medium, mid-tone. And it'll help us sort of determine how the whole thing's going to get built up. So let's go ahead and move forward on that. Oh, one other thing is I did take a sleeve and marked it into quadrants so that I can easily transfer this image into a larger image or a smaller image. And so we can see that the deer is down in this lower right hand corner. The horizon is above halfway. This is halfway mark right here. And so the horizon is above halfway, and these guys drop down a little bit lower than that does. The pieces on this side come a little more than halfway into here. And that's a little more than a quarter, almost a third of the way across for that point there. So that at least gives us some idea of how that layout is going to be. Put this up here, and I'm going to just do a little quick thumbnail here. And so our proportions are approximately this. We said that top horizon was at about a third. Yeah, it's about a third. So let's just, break this in there. So that top horizon is going to be coming across in through here. These come more than halfway. Halfway is here. So it's going to come about to there, that hill. And then the second hill is about this far. And we're running into there. And so then there's a nice little low area, and then it works its way up. So then we've got that shape, and we have some trees that are going to come all the way up through here, and some trees that are going to come off the top of that. And then that mountain is, the highest part is more than halfway here. The lowest part is a little less than halfway. So it's going to come about like that, and then back down a little bit, and then there's another little island back here that comes just off of that. It's probably too big, but anyway, that's okay. And then the deer he's a little more than a third high. So the deer is going to be right in here, sort of an oval shape for the body, an oval shape for the head, with some ears coming off of it, neck to join, and long spindly legs coming off of that. One leg goes forward, this leg comes down, and my other leg is hidden behind his head. So that head probably needs to come down just a tiny bit more. And then this is on a little diagonal piece here. This reflection comes down, and this is the other thing to notice, is that the reflection is approximately the same length as it is high. So that reflection is going to come down into there. Trees, trees, that one, and this comes all the way down. And that comes like that. So I've got a little basic drawing there. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to just work with two colors to make a gray blue. Could be neutral gray as well. So let's just, my usual combination, burnt sienna, and we could either do phthalo blue or we could do ultramarine blue. I think I'll do ultramarine blue. So I'm going to, as far as the noton goes, the sky is almost white. It's very light. This area is very light. This is getting to be mid-tone. That's mid-tone. This is dark. So what we're going to do is that we're going to leave the white of the paper for the white areas. And remember when we did that layered painting where we were doing values. I need to move something out of my way here. Okay, so mid-tone. I can come in and I can paint areas that are both light and mid-tone together, but there is a light area that comes right in through here that I don't want to lose. And so I'm painting in on top of that dark area. And those are just trees that are going to come up into there. And it comes light up against that other set of trees, and then it's light up above there. So then we're just going to pull this down, and I'll come back in and I'll put another layer on top of this. But there's some little light bits right in here that we don't want to lose that are really quite nice. So let's leave them there. And then there's a dark bit that comes off of that. And then the water is basically white. And that got below the horizon line. We didn't want that. And I'm leaving just a little bit of light on the edge there. So then these mountains are coming back in here with this mid-tone. And we'll come back in and we'll paint a little more dark to get the real dark areas going. So that's going to be mid-tone, and this will be darker here, but I'm going to put another layer on it later. Okay, now this was that little, and this all comes down into here. And notice that in the water I am painting straight down. We're going to straight down or sideways. This is going to be a little lighter back in there. And then back in here, once we, again, we are mid-tone. And there's some trees that I don't want to lose, that they're lighter, and I want to leave that light bit, bring that across. And some of that's going to go right up into the top. So this looks like an abstract, doesn't it? And that's exactly what it is. It's an abstract. And we're leaving these light bits. That was, oh, okay. And then this is going to be darker, and there's maybe some little light bits that are showing through there. And then our deer needs to have you know, that's the other thing is that, you know, when I copied that deer and brought it in from another photograph, the light on it is actually not quite right. And so I'm going to have to play with that later. And, oh, you know, Margaret, I see what you did something funny here. My deer actually was supposed to be, well, let's just change my edge here. That'll be fine. And we'll make that a little bit bigger out there. And he's going to come down, and his head is down here a little bit lower. Ears are coming out. Okay. And his butt goes out a little bit more. And then he's actually going to have some shadows running off of it. I can see in those rocks down there sort of what the shadows do. All right, so now this is going to have to dry before I can get the darks in, but I now have the whites and the midtones, and so we can sort of see this abstract pattern of what's happening with those lights and the midtones. And we have a little bit of reflection stuff that's coming across through there, which is actually the reflection of that mountain up above. Isn't that sort of cool? And yeah, a little light that comes in there, that wind comes across it. So let me dry this, and then I can come in and I can get the darks put in. I really only use a hairdryer when I want to hurry something along like this. So now let me mix up a little bit darker version of this gray. So we've got sort of this little basic thing of what's happening with this. You know, this maybe comes out a little further that way. And I need to get nice. Remember, to get dark, it has to be thick. So I'm thickening this up. So we're going to get as close to black as I can. When we go to do this, we'll realize that this island back here is not as dark as this, but it's still part of that dark pattern of what we see here. And so this is our bones, our abstract reality check on how this goes together. Okay. And I hope this is sort of making sense to you as I do this. Let's just start over here. There's a little bit of a dark line that is uneven here. It comes through and it's just in a few places. It's not the whole way. There's at least one tree that runs up through there, makes for something interesting. And then in here, underneath of this, and then it's going to go dark all in through here and down into these trees. There's a midtone that's going to come across there where the wind blows through. So we're not looking at color, we're looking at how light and dark things are. It's sometimes hard to make ourselves do these notons, the black and white version of what's here. But in the end, it's going to make it much easier for us to see what's happening. And then this is dark in through most of this. There's a little bit of midtone that shows. This is light up to where we have that those grasses. And then there's some interesting shapes here. And this is going to go dark all the way up until we're just about at the top of that hill. And it's going to be, and there's some dark that goes into there. Those trees come up through here. The tree trunks are dark, but some of the rest of that is not quite as dark. It's a little more mid-tone. And over in here, that mid-tone is a little bit darker. And then on our deer, it's going to be just some little darker pieces on it. Okay, and then this island is dark, isn't it? Okay, what else needs to be a little bit darker? This needs to be a little darker here, and oh, right in through here, there's a little dark line that comes down to delineate from one tree to the other. And that's a little darker in there. Oh, and we took this over a little bit further. So then this is darker down in here. And underneath of those, it's a little bit darker. That's a little darker. And that's okay. And that has a little more of a curve to it. All right. And let's sort of pull that out into there just a little bit so that it looks like it's tree stuff. Those were tree trunks. Okay, this is all mid-tone. And I've actually now got 2 values in mid-tone, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. I just don't want to get too detailed with this. Really want to keep this as simple as possible. Sort of these big shapes. Big shapes, and what are the big shapes doing? And so then these are trees up here with just the little holes showing through on them. Okay, that's very light mid-tone in here. There's this area of mid-tone that runs across through this area here and will break and come down into there. Those reflections are coming down. This is a little more mid-tone-ish, and that can come out to there. Okay, I think I need to stop on that so that we've got our values. We've got dark, mid-tone, light, and how those patterns work across through here, and how the darks, your eyes sort of bounce across. You can use the darks on that little tree in there to make that interesting. I see something else here that is probably going to be, well, somewhat important, not super important. But there's another little hill there that because of the light, it stands out. There's a light area where this grassy hill has sunlight on it, sunlight on the edge of those trees. That probably should have been lighter up there. This could have been left white in here. Let me just pick a little bit more of that out to show that that's a real light area coming across through there. So this will be our roadmap, which will help us when we go to do the painting, to make sure that we're having our values where they need to be and how they need to be in the painting. Now, something that as we look at it, we're going to see that this water in here is actually slightly darker than what the sky is. And as it gets closer to the shore, we can see through it, and so it actually looks a little lighter too because it doesn't have as much reflection on it. So I think that's going to be it for now. This is what you guys are going to be playing with. You're going to be getting your drawing done. You're going to do a value sketch, and then next week I'll actually start painting the painting.